Hello. So I am L Blue or Saren Blue. Welcome to the Every Last Trace Speed Paint. So, quick forewarning before we get into like the artsy stuff and my like thought process and stuff. Speed paint's gonna be very quick for the concept sketch and like the general sketching. It will slow down, I promise. Just we have 6 months worth of sketching to get through. Okay? Okay. I originally drew the concept sketch for this back in June 2023. It was actually while I was working on Determination. It was going to be my next piece, but for whatever reason I just didn't do it then. So I kind of kept it on the back burner because I loved the concept. Something about like the warm, hot flames contrasting with the just cool snow was just really pretty to me. And also it was just really a good drawing of Sakura anyway, and Sakura's my favorite character of all time, so yeah. But I kept it on the back burner, and when I returned to it like a month or two later, apparently my art style has changed entirely in that time frame, so it looked like utter crap to me now. So I thought, you know what, it looks fine enough, I don't really want to redraw the entire thing, so I'm just gonna edit the face. That didn't work, I stressed myself out, so then I put it on the back burner again for another few months. Then I returned to it, still didn't look good, again, stressed myself out, so I put it on the back burner. Now this is something I've experienced before. My Kokomi drawing Tranquility, I say personally that drawing I did not have the skills to complete at the time I did the concept sketch. And it genuinely took me, I think actually a year, to finally have my skill set up to the point where I could draw exactly how I imagined it. This drawing ended up being a very similar case. You'll definitely tell when I picked it up more recently because you can just tell I know what I'm doing immediately. I completely resketched it from the ground up. You can tell I know what I want to do with the expression. I'm rendering the nose, like, in the concept sketch to get the dimensions. So, one thing I did in the concept sketch, which definitely caused issues in the later parts of the drawing, I learned a new technique for rendering hair quickly to kind of get an idea of what it would look like. I use an edge brush and then like add some very light shading. For whatever reason, it looked incredible, which you think would be a good thing, but when I tried to actually do the line art for the hair, I could not get it to look as good as the sketch. Why does the sketch look so good? I'm mad about it still! It looks amazing. It's gonna cause issues in 5 minutes, believe me. The liner itself went pretty okay. No major issues or anything until except for the thing, which I talked about just a second ago, so you already know what it is. I kind of spoiled it in this voice over, but you know what, whatever, we're good. I just accidentally hit orange in the face, I'm sorry. But yeah, no, the liner went well. No major issues really. The hand was a little annoying, and the doll, I actually had more trouble with than I thought I would. I had a really hard time because I wanted at least one of the arms kind of poking through the fingers a little bit because I thought it'd be more dynamic and cute, but for whatever reason, I couldn't really get the dimensions of it right and the proportions, perspective, and like other art terms. So first I grabbed my little Webkinz hamster and essentially torched it, and I took a picture of it, and that worked well for the hand, but it still didn't really fix my issue with the doll. So I asked my mom, do we have any that happen to have arms like that? And she brought up my little Breath of the Wild Link, and that worked first time. Perfect. Awesome. Cool. We got the hand and the doll right. The eyes were problematic as they always are. I mean, I kind of ended up accepting that, you know what, redrawing them is always stressful, it never really looks as good as the sketch. At this point in the shading, I'm just gonna redraw it and like cover all the line art anyway, so I'm just gonna leave the concept sketch eyes, because you know, it worked good enough. Now we're back to the hair. It's hair. I really fucking tried to get this line art to work, right? Like, I did it doesn't look good, keep working on it for 15 more minutes. I did my line thickening. I really fucking tried. But every time I turned back on that concept sketch, it looked so much better. I don't know why. I tried everything. It didn't fix itself. It still looked like crap. I left it on hoping, you know, maybe it'll look better if I just get used to it. And no, it didn't. So here we are. At this point, I'm just like, I'm gonna deal with it when I do the shading. I'll figure out something then. I'm just gonna leave it, enjoy the concept sketch because it looks good. It looks better than anything I can do with the hair currently. And yeah, I ended up just keeping the concept sketch. I'll talk more about that when I get to shading the hair. Hello, it's the next day and I'm continuing the voiceover. So the hat went fine, actually. Thanks to the help of some friends, I had some really good references, so it wasn't that bad. I kind of decided to do a mix of the hat from the story teaser, where he leaves after the third betrayal, and also the hat you see in the art for the Irodori Festival. I tried to keep the actual structure of the hat closer to the story teaser's hat, but the thing I really liked about the Irodori Festival is I loved the strings, because it added a very nice dynamicness to the piece, and it definitely made it not as flat, and also it just made more sense. I mean, you always wonder how his hat stays on anyway. So I kind of did a mix of the two. The actual structuring of the hat went pretty well. I had a habit throughout the piece of not actually fully defining the hat, so numerous times I had to go back and actually define it and properly do the line art, properly do the red, properly do the strings. So it's never really fully finished until the piece is actually finished, which sounds a little weird saying it. I did have to resize the shoulder and add the bow, because I forgot the bow till I looked at the human puppet. And the shoulder, I wasn't sure if it would be an issue or not with the shading, so I decided I'm just gonna get it out of the way, make it bigger while it's still in the base colors, because that's a lot easier than what I had to deal with during persistence. And you can see now I'm doing the line art for the hat, because I didn't do it before. I just started doing the shading very roughly and left the hat, so I'm doing the line art. I'm gonna leave the red strings. It's kind of just a giant block, because my real life reference for the hat I used was, it had a bunch of strings holding a piece of fabric under the chin, and I tried to do the strings in the base colors and it didn't really work out right. It just didn't look right. I figured I could just do it later, but I just did a giant block and then used the eraser tool to cut out some lines in the middle to make it vaguely look like strings but blocky. That will be fixed later, don't worry. It's not always going to be a block of red. I had to fix the eye, general adjustments. Here's a fun fact for if you're only listening to the voiceover. If my little currently working on notepad says refinements or general refinements, that's just my word for everything, because sometimes I can't even tell what I'm doing. So if I don't know what I'm doing and it generally looks like I'm fixing something, it's probably a refinement of some kind, so I'm just gonna put refinements, okay? Okay. The skin shading actually went incredibly smoothly. Like, this is one of the smoothest skin shadings I've had. I will point out, I do like that, you know, for the first layers of like R1 and R0, which are my first two layers of shading for skin, I actually went back and forth for the hand, but then by the third layer, I just completely forgot about the hand. And it happens all the time. The amount of times that I have been drawing and I suddenly realized, oh, I completely forgot an entire part of the skin to shade. Quite fun. I changed my noses, if you could not tell. Also, I have to say the little scrunch on the nose is so cute. That's one of my favorite details, and I feel like it got lost a little bit in the final image, but it is so cute. Yeah, I honestly just feel like the skin shading for this one beautifully. I had a very strong sense of color from the moment I started, and I mentioned this in my persistent voiceover, but if the skin shading for a piece does not go well, more often than not that piece will just be entirely discarded. It goes well for the most part, but I usually just maybe don't get the right colors on the first try, whereas this one, it was just perfect. The music is getting very intense. Why is there so much tension all of a sudden? It's like, this looks good, but something about these eyes is bothering me. Something about the eyes is bothering me. What is it? I mean, they look normal, they look like my normal eyes, they look pretty, but there's just something off. What is wrong with this? Because it looks right. I'm doing everything as I should, but why is something off? I even did like the shadow on the white part of the eye from the pupil, and I did my little sparkles. Why am I not liking this? There's just something bothering me. Is it the pupil itself? Is it too light? Maybe I need to do the liner. Maybe I just need to do the shape of the eye and like the eyelash and the rendering there. Maybe I need to darken the eye a little? Is that it? Is the eyelash too warm toned? Okay, you know what? Let's just take a break. Let's try to get the space color of the hair, okay? Okay. Huh? What's that noise? Is that ticking? Do I hear a clock ticking? Ow, my hand. So welcome to 18 days later. So, needless to say, autistic burnout I have learned now is a thing, and apparently it is affecting me a lot. So, I ended up taking an 18-day break from this piece. And in that time, I worked on 4 separate pieces. I did an Omori piece, I did 2 pieces of Sakura, and a D-loop. And what I learned, all of those pieces I did in a single day, which most of my pieces, as I'm sure you well know, take me weeks. And in that time, I learned a lot of new techniques, and I felt like I had a new grasp on my art again. And I had to explain that. You can see when I started doing the people, you may have to skip back, I'm sorry. You can see when I started doing the people that I knew what I was doing. So much more. And I immediately went back into the hair and I was stronger than ever. I had so much more motivation. I felt good about my art again. Because for such a long time, I felt like I've lost the direction of my art. Because I kind of know what I want to do. But I feel like my art style is changing a lot right now. And it's not like major changes, like I'm completely changing like the fundamentals. But I'm changing how I do my eyes. I'm changing how I do my hair. I've changed my nose. The lips I'm doing differently. It's just a lot of these small little things and I'm having a hard time adjusting, but one thing I learned in the 4 pieces I did is to completely abandon my layer system. We've already been over this, but in all those pieces, instead of working around the layers and like shading under the line art and then doing my little bits on top, I just drew directly over the line art and I just painted and it was so much more fun. And one thing I also did too, because we're on the hair right now and I have a lot to explain in a very short amount of time, I'm sorry. I decided with this, you know what, I'm gonna build off the concept sketch instead of trying to replace it. And you know what, it worked. I figured out what bothered me about the eyes too. And I learned this while I was working on my 2 Sakura pieces. They were too saturated, they were too blue. He has more purple eyes than I thought he did. And really, they were just more saturated than they needed to be. The actual fundamental of the eyes were good. And like I said in my little acting bit, I hope I was a good actor. They looked right from what my standard of eyes are and what they typically would look like. But I just had the colors way off, to be honest. One of the best parts about these major drawings with a bunch of different lighting and stuff is what I call my big color blend or hard light layer. It's just a folder with overlay modes directly on top of my actual shading, and that's where I usually do like my blue highlights. In this piece I have a very heavy orange that's the light directly hitting it. That gives it this beautiful orange pink hue. I have a weird thing about if there are too many different overlays or opacities on a layer, I feel like it really messes with my shading, and I just have a weird thing about multiple different levels of shading or multiple different darknesses. Here are some examples of what I mean, because it's very hard for me to explain. So it kind of kept bothering me, and it kind of made the drawing generally look less refined and a lot less smooth. And that was until I had the idea, what if I just paint on top of everything? I mean, I could fix everything that's bothering me, and so I did. So I painted directly on top the shadows and light, like I did in my small pieces, and oh my god, this is so much fun! Look at all the details I can get it exactly how I want, and screw the line art! And now we have entered the next major phase of this piece, painting directly on top. So for the rest of the shading for Sakura himself, the character, I would go below all the big blend folder and overlays, and I would do a very quick color of the line art, just a very general color that will probably look good regardless of what I do, and very rough shading, so essentially the basics of what the shadows would be. I still tried to make the hues kind of pretty, but that wasn't really my focus. But then for the actual refining and making it look nice, and adding the different hues, I just went above the line art again, and above all the pretty colors, and this is where I shaded for the rest of the piece. And I feel like I was able to get such stronger hues, and it just went so much smoother. Here's a little story time. So above my bedroom door, I have these 4 pieces from an artist, and they're 4 pieces of Mystic Messenger characters. I just printed them on my printer, and I'm sorry, I don't know the artist's name. I don't think they're active anymore. But I've always loved them because the one thing about these pieces that always stood out to me is they have this what feels like rainbow of hues in all these different parts of the drawing, and it's always stood out to me, and it's always been beautiful. And honestly, since 2021, I've been trying to achieve that. And of course, like, I've always played with my blue hues and just adding little rainbows where I can, but I feel like this is the first piece where when you truly look at it, it's just beautiful. And there are so many different colors, and they all complement each other, and I am so proud of this. I cannot describe it. I am so proud. So the hat went pretty good. The actual shading part went really smoothly. We're again below the line art to actually do like the basics of the shading. But as soon as like the fundamentals are done, we will move to the big color blend shading layer that I've been using. So strings actually went really well. I had to redo the fabric holding under his chin because I realized I did not do it well. I was gonna do a bow initially, but I didn't really feel like it fit him, so it took me a long time to find what kind of like knot I would draw, and even then it took me a long time to actually be able to get it to look right, because apparently drawing knots is very hard. I almost got it there, but it just didn't look right. So then I had to do it again, and then I finally got it right. So yeah, also, again, I didn't really define that, so here I am, 8 hours later having to fix it, right? I also lost my line art for the fabric under his chin at one point, so I had to go to a different file to find it. added my pretty hues just for the basics of it. I actually ended up copy pasting the red, I've been calling it, so like the strings and the fabric, to above everything because I was having too much of a hard time actually getting it to not like be drawn over or anything like that. God, like the details of the hat are so pretty. The little bit of light and like shadow on the edges of the plank to give them definition, it's just beautiful. And the hues. Remember how, oh my god, Discord call, hello, hello? Hello, hello? So, like I said a minute or two ago, I feel like the hat is just the best example of the pretty hues. Like, everything about it and the details, it's just amazing, and I can't believe I drew this. This is so cool. And, I mean, the blue hues and the purples and the warm tones and just the details, and it's just beautiful. And this is my best part, oh my god, or my favorite part, oh my god! Look at those lines in the hat on the inside, they look so pretty! Oh my god! I love it! Adding some more definition to the strings. I didn't do the string line art because that's always really difficult, so here's the string line art. Very boring compared to the hat, but it's just amazing, isn't it? I am so happy. Obviously adding the purple or the blue tones to give some more color dynamicness, you know? Doing some refinements, and by refinements, I mean just like fixing minor things, right? On the lines of the flanks! There's the line art for the red string, sorry, I was wrong. There it is, not earlier. So I'm just doing some general. Sorry, you're losing tunnel privilege for right now. Don't worry, they got the tunnel back as soon as I was done recording the voiceover. They still had the one, it was just the really crinkly one is pretty loud when I'm recording, then it gets Kiki upset. So I'm just doing some general cleanup and some small refinements, like fixing any lines that look off or anything that's just generally bothering me, because now Sakura is done. Like, the actual drawing of Sakura himself is done, other than the tears, which I'm currently doing. The tears were problematic. I feel like there is a very fine line between tears looking like tears and tears looking wrong. And perhaps that's inappropriate of me to talk about, but it's something that I'm always like kind of scared about. Like, I feel like I got it to look good, and it's also just hard to draw tears in general, to be honest. And again, I really hope that isn't like wrong of me to say, but I do feel like that is a part of the creative process that I'm always a little worried about. Because you have to worry about tears looking like just too much in general. They actually look like tears if they're too like bubbly. And I feel like I actually got it. I don't know exactly what I did. It was something with the shadow in the eyes itself. Again, general cleanup, adding my signature, Saren Blue. Isn't that fun? It's so pretty, isn't it? That's a beautiful name. And I feel like it's more artistic than El Blue. So, now it's background time! Let's go! So, we're moving to a separate file. If you ever see the screen like fully go white for a minute, that would be Medibang not responding to save. So we're in a different file to do the background. Background stuff, let's talk, quick. Because I'm really rushing through the concept sketch, oh my god. Okay, I wasn't very confident in the shading of the background because backgrounds are just very difficult in my opinion. So I just did a very raw colors and blockiness, and something about the snow was bothering me. I couldn't really figure out what. And the trees, they were fine enough, but there's just something I couldn't really figure out what was bothering me yet. And also the background is loosely referenced from Story Teaser to the Divine Will, and the trees are my own addition. Okay, cool. I did find some good references, but I still couldn't figure out what the snow was bothering me with. The trees actually went very smoothly. The tree on the left went perfectly, but the tree on the right, something about it didn't really match the tree on the left, and I couldn't really figure out what it was for a while. I eventually figured out the line strokes were too long, and I was doing way too long of lines, whereas on the tree on the left I was doing dots, so you can see me fixing that. Took me a little while, but once I got it, I then started rendering the trees further and further back. Yeah, rendering the trees after that was pretty fine. I just rendered the ones in the back. No big deal, nothing really too interesting. It was actually incredibly calming though, like, as much as I hate drawing trees and plants, drawing the trees was very calming, and I found I actually really loved drawing the background, and I thought it ended up being really pretty. Now the snow, I did figure out what was bothering. I noticed in reference images there were very few different colors in the snow. They had maybe 2 colors for warm light and then like 2 colors for the blue shadows. And I had way too many. So I ended up making it so that the snow in the front only had the warm light in the blue, and then the snow in the back had the grays in the blue. The blue would be the highlight in the back versus the shadow. The path turned out beautiful. I added some little bits of snow on the top of it to make it look prettier. And actually, after I figured that out and really just made less different colors in the snow in the background, it went really well. The red circle is me trying to do a fisheye effect until I realized I could just do it manually, no big deal. Adding some blurring, and I actually ended up having to redo the sky because I wanted to change it and I couldn't really go below the layers at this point. Now, fun detail in the stars that may or may have not gotten lost in the final piece, I actually hid his constellation in them. It's in the upper left corner. You can see me drawing it briefly. But yeah, I don't want there to be stars when it's snowing, but I kind of wanted to keep it. I'm doing a very quick reference of what the blurring would look like on Sakura, because I'm trying to figure out like final details on the snow. I ended up adding these little lights on the path, and fun fact, they were in my concept sketch for the background. But when I was rendering it initially, I just didn't include them because I didn't feel like it. And initially I wasn't so sure about them, but when I started adding the light from them, it really added just that small bit of extra detail it needed. And honestly, I think they're beautiful. I also added like some houses in the background and like some hills. They may or may not still be there in the final image. Now that the background's pretty much entirely done, it is time to do the fire, right? And I redrew it, and something looked off. I couldn't quite figure out what it was that was bothering me, and I also realized as I was doing it, I was losing a lot of the really pretty hues I had in the foreground for the snow, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I mean, something about the fire is off. Something about the whole piece is off. But what is it? I ended up adding more hues to Sakura because maybe that'll help a little. And I lost some hues on Sakura as well, so maybe just playing with those will help more. But something was still off. And in the snow, I lost all those pretty hues I worked so hard on. Maybe it's the fact that I don't have the text? Is that what's bothering me? Maybe it's the blurring on Sakura? I talked with everyone a bunch, and my mom had the observation that my drawings have a tendency to focus too much on the character and don't really have enough of the character blending into the background. And I had the idea, okay, what if I downsize Sakura? And it worked amazingly. It fixed a lot of the issues immediately with just him in the background, because now that he's further back, it's not like he's standing in front of the backdrop, it's that he's actually in it. I had to redraw a little bit of Sakura because I wanted to make the background bigger versus making his character bigger. I would rather have quality loss in the background than the character itself. So I had to redraw some parts of him and essentially extend it. And I kept having issues. You can see me going back and forth between Everlast Trace 7 and Everlast Trace BG file save 3 because for whatever reason it was like 50 pixels off on the main file, which is 7, and I couldn't figure out why. Because everything was the same. It was just really being weird, and I was really having a hard time with it. I also did like a few different refinements and started working on my checklist a little bit, being fix dots / mistakes, so just fixing like colors that maybe went out the lines too much, or generally anything I would consider a mistake, right? I am also transferring the background files to the main one because I would rather save it on the main file and not save them separately. So that's what I'm doing. Very fun, boring stuff, but you can see me going back and forth between the two files. And I started moving the fire, but I still felt like something was off. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna redo it again. And I got a few different lines in until I had the realization it wasn't going in the direction of the wind. Are you kidding me? That's what it was the entire time and no one noticed? Seriously? Are you kidding? Yeah, that immediately fixed it. Also, I added smoke. The smoke's kind of boring and it didn't really do much. But are you kidding me? How did no one notice that? And the snowflakes weren't going in the direction either. Yeah, so, that was what my issue was the entire time. I cannot believe no one around me noticed. I didn't either, in all fairness. But how the f did no one notice that? That feels like such an obvious thing, but whatever. It's fixed now. The smoke adds just a little bit of, like, light in the sky and adds some, like, pretty hues. So, yeah. Now we're on to final refinements. Oh my god, this has been a roller coaster of a drawing. 2 months. 2 months. This has taken 2 months. But hey, we're almost done. Doing my hair liner, I'm fixing the eye because I had it like a magenta, the pupil, and I didn't really like it. I kind of was on the fence about it, but I think it looks good now. So now we're officially in the checklist. So dot/mistakes, which is just fixing anything in general. Anything that has been bothering me at all. I'm also adding like more defined fire to the little lanterns. We are now adding the blur to Sakura, which is exciting. It's kind of annoying to do, but it's gonna look good, I promise. Obviously, anything I make looks good. I'm kidding. Don't take me seriously. It says text, and I'm sure that's probably confusing, and you probably think I like accidentally left it as text, but no, I'm doing the text. I kind of wanted the text to look like flame embers themselves and kind of be like wisping away in the wind, you know? So I actually had to move it into a different file and then use the smudge brush to scrub them a little bit. Scrub it away a little bit. So it looks good, they look like flames, that's what I was going for. I also added this orange line on Sakura's face on the dividing point, because I thought it looked really good, and something about like the harsh blue kind of didn't look right. And now we're doing our final details! So, blurring, overlays, chromic aberration, hue changes, motion blur, fun stuff! And also I'm fixing my signature because it kind of got lost in the blurring, and we're done! Oh my god! We're done! Holy crap! Yay! What? Yay! So, let me give you an exclusive tour of every last trace. So, my goal here is to show you my favorite things about the piece, right? So, I did change one thing before, in between, well, like after I finished the speed paint, I did change one thing, so let me show you that quick. So, I just hit my mic, I'm so sorry. Or just doing zoomies. So, as you can see here, the pretty lines that I was talking about, and also the pretty details on the hand, got lost in the blurring, right? So I did edit it, so now you can see my very pretty lines. I love them so much, and also the details on the hand easier. That's the changes. So let me take through a tour of my favorite parts of the piece, okay? Okay, so of course we're gonna start with the highlight of them all. These lines. Hold on, this is driving me insane. Why is this brush so big? Here we go, much better. So as you can see, aren't those just beautiful? I don't know what it is about them, but there's just something beautiful about those lines. I did them a little bit on the side as well. They're still kind of lost in the blur. And even up here, isn't there just something beautiful about them? And I pointed this out, the bit of like little bit of lighting on the edges of the planks on the hat. Beautiful. And also like, how could I not mention the strings, you know? And now for the other details, right? So you have beautiful hues on the skin. Just outstanding hues. I mean, there's such a wide range. You have oranges, you have grays, Just beautiful colors, right? And same with the hand as well. Just hues everywhere. The hair on the little doll and the clothing. Just chef's kiss, beautiful. I am so happy with this, honestly. I think, obviously my favorite detail is the lines. That's like the one I go back to all the time. But I have some drawing. Some of my drawings, even if the techniques I used are outdated, they hold up well because of their colors. I think this one will always hold up well because of the colors. And it's just, here you can see this is the little shadow I was talking about. Whereas instead of having this solid, like the color that would be behind the eyes, I actually added just some bits of shadow instead, which really helped. There's a little scrunch of the nose. It's a little lost, but it's still very pretty. The hair has a lot of different colors. You have this warm amber going into this grayish. It looks blue. It is actually like a mid-toned gray. This is more of a magenta. This is more of a purple, a very dark purple, as you can see. And the flames, or the text, are like flames themselves. They're slowly getting blown away in the wind, or scrubbed away, because you're scrubbing away every last trace of human emotion. But yeah, I think this piece is beautiful, and the textures, the colors, I'm exhausted. I've been pretty much yelling at my microphone for the last hour, but thank you for experiencing every last trace with me. This is probably one of my favorite pieces I've ever done, if not currently my favorite. Here's my progress sheet, so you can actually see the dates for everything, because you can see it in the corner, but it's a little hard to keep track of. So yeah, the concept sketch was June 23rd, and it took 2 months. But thank you for experiencing every last trace with me. I hope that this has been a enjoyable video to watch, and I hope that my voiceover has helped explain my thought process a little bit, even if perhaps I don't always explain things as well as I would like to. And I hope that, like, I was actually kind of funny, because I really tried to be entertaining with this one and look into the, why does everything look off with the pupils? Why does, words? Why does words, you know? I actually really tried to make this one entertaining. I hope it was. Voiceovers are still very new to me, and this one has taken so many different attempts to record. But yeah, thank you. I'm rambling a lot. So thank you for everything, as always, and thank you for your time. It honestly means a lot. Why are you scratching that box, princess? Stop it. Please. That's nasty. I don't even know what's in that box. Anyway, bye. I'm tired.